Call the St. Joseph City Council meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 2, public comments. Anyone wishing to address the council, come to the podium on an item not on the agenda, and
I will try not to be.
okay.
My name is Mary Kay Hooney, and 9850 Jenny Lane is my address. I'm very disappointed in your decision to go from 7 to 5 people on the park board. It should be open to the community. The community has no voice in the park, all 15 of them. Board decisions. The mayor shouldn't be appointing the members. We the people want more input on decisions for the city. The massive trails and parks plan connecting the 15 parks and school. Who's gonna pay for all the upkeep of the trails you're wanting to bring through the city? This could be very expensive. All these trails need buffer zones, 5 to 6 feet on either side. The other thing, the LCCMR grant you have approved, how do we, the people, know you're not going to use the LCCMR grant for the East Park and maybe other trails and parks, which uses the Endangered Species Act to potentially lock up private land from future use? There is proof of this if you're interested. Also, the Safe Routes to School plan. It seems to bring more low-income housing. People like owning private property. That is what we should be looking at. Grants. All these grants you use are great, right? Free money. But there are strings attached called grant assurances with certain expectations. The strings are often federal and state regulations that kick in after the project is built. You can protect us, the taxpayers, from additional costs by adding a sentence. This was brought to Nate's attention. And that is all I have to say.
Thank you. Sure, anyone else? Come on up. Name, address.
My name is Mark Martini, and I live in Avon, and I have a couple buildings in St. Joe. One is the old JR's Mobile, as you guys call it, I guess. So my dad owned that place since I was a kid, and I've been there since I was a kid, or had memories since I was a kid. I bought the place to renovate it and make it as an old gas station look, mobile station, and make it look nice and maybe do some car repair there. I was told that no, you can't have no car repair there. You can have a bookstore, you can have a bar. Well, there ain't no bars in St. Joe, I guess. There ain't no coffee shops in St. Joe. You can have that. But, so it kind of ticked me off. I talked to Bob, and I kind of wanted to know what, I would have had it done by now. It would have been all nice and fixed up. But I started working on it, and you guys told me to stop. And then I came back, and I didn't get a building permit because the part of it fell down in the back. And then you guys told me I could take that part off. Well, I would have had it off right away, but you got stopped, and then now I can get it back going again if I go buy the permit. Well, whatever. It's kind of a joke the way it seems to me. That you guys, you know, either you want me to do something with it, or you don't. So I was just kind of wondering what you want me to do. Is my grandfather in there? Can I do something with the place? If not, I have another lady that would probably buy it. I'd have to help her do all the stuff for it, but she wants to. I tried to call Nate, and he never returned my call. So I figured a friend of mine told me to come here tonight because I don't know how else to get answers. But lady that wants to buy it, she wants to have some kind of behavior health center there. And I don't know if it fits in your guidelines or whatever. It's not a coffee shop or a bar or a boutique, but if it's a behavioral health center, and I don't know if she's gonna get the money or not. I told her I'd help her out with the the land and stuff, but, so that's what, if you could send me a letter or let me know, or whatever you do here, I don't know, I've never been in any kind of stuff like this, but I guess I don't know how else to reach out. And then I heard that you guys said that you passed something, that you're gonna knock it down, and I gotta pay the bill or something for you guys knocking it down. And, you know, I wish I would've gotten informed that you guys had a meeting about JR's Mobile. It's my place, okay, it's not JR has nothing to do with it. I didn't know, you know, if you would've sent me a letter or something, you know, you guys tried to buy it from me. You guys said wanted to buy it, so I come here and you guys didn't wanna pay nothing for it. Well, I understand, but it's just, you know, it's just kind of frustrating, you know, it's been in my family since I was a kid, and, it just, yeah, it really is, you know, it's just wrong. But, you know, like I said, I would have it fixed up, would have been fixed up already and nice, and, you know, that's what I do, I'm a car guy, I did that my whole life, and that's why I bought it. I bought the barber shop from Denny, he was a family friend, and I always told Gary, if you ever sell it, I want the place, cause I have memories and history there. And, so I finally got it from, Corey Eller was trying to get his paws in there too, but, but that didn't happen. But anyway, so if you could let me know one way or another, I mean, I would make the place, you know, whatever, it would be nice, but just let me know, or whatever you do here. I just wanted to come and say my piece, and like I say, I don't know nothing about this kind of stuff. This isn't my gig. I'm a car guy, and I just didn't know what else to do, so.
Very good. Thanks, Mark. Anyone else wishing to address council tonight? Seeing no one else come forward, we'll move on to item 3, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion and second approving the agenda. Any concerns or questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion does carry. Item 4, consent agenda.
Move to approve. Second?
Motion and second on consent agenda. Issues or concerns? I'm gonna pull 4H for a second. 4A through 4G. Motion and second to approve 4A to 4G. All those in favor signify by aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 4H. In accepting the resignation, Therese, I want to acknowledge how much hard work you've done. Thankful that you've done so much for the city. I can't do it myself, but I accept with regret. I think you've done wonderful work here, and I wish you all the luck and promise in the world where you're going.
Thank you, Mayor.
So I need a motion to accept 4H.
So moved. Second?
Motion and second, consent agenda item 4H. All those in favor signify by aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, engineer reports. A lot of pictures.
Pictures. Good evening. Good evening, Council. In your packet this evening is the results of the hydrology study, what we were calling the Morningside Acres. Oh, let's see if there we go. The Morningside Acres hydrology study, which as you may recall, we took a closer look at the drainage conditions in part of the Morningside Acres neighborhood, particularly east of 3rd Avenue. The packet contains several exhibits, so maybe a recount of the actions taken. A computer model was built to simulate the drainage conditions, both coming from 3rd Avenue as well as the rear yards of several of the homes. We sent out a survey crew to collect elevations, both drainage swale, backyard, street, and storm sewer conditions, so that the model could be as realistic or as accurate as possible. And then to calibrate that model, some of the video that the property owners had shared, as well as photographic information, was used to help calibrate what the model was predicting versus the actual field conditions. From there, we tested several conditions in terms of what if. What if we entertained, for example, removing the 2 catch basins along the side yard swale? How would the flooding look or be mitigated if we replace the catch basins with a flared end section or an apron? How would it look if we did some additional drainage grading of swales? And so the multitude of exhibits that you see in that study were meant to provide a graphic representation of what happens if you do these things. The first scenario, switch exhibits here. We tested 4 different conditions and kind of built upon them. The first scenario, it's a little difficult to read here in black type, but option 1 was just that: remove the 2 catch basins. So you might be aware in this blue square area, there are 2 existing catch basins that accept drainage, both coming from the west as well as what drains north and to the south from the neighboring lots. And so drainage today is collected at 2 catch basins or inlets at this point. So the first test of that model was what happens if we were to improve the inlet capacity of that system. And so by taking out the 2 catch basins and adding what we call a flared end section. So you see those on the side of the road like a culvert. A culvert entrance is what I mean by a flared end section. And take those catch basins and tie that to a 21-inch section of pipe. So that was test case number 1. Test case number 2 is this green area here. If we, in addition to added a flared end section, we graded this swale out a little bit more to provide what we refer to as an emergency overflow. If a catch basin or an inlet becomes plugged, where does the water go? And so as a general rule of thumb in residential grading, we want that emergency overflow to take the drainage out to the street before it would approach a home or a structure. Part of that option would also include grading a slight berm. And so if I was to switch views to this screen and you see the green lines of the contours, the lay of the land is such that Morningside Acres home is down gradient. If you've been out there, you know that this is a lower elevation than, say, 3rd, and so water in its momentum tends to want to drain towards the structure in this kind of southeasterly direction. And then the third option would have been, what if an additional swale or additional grading in the rear yard of, this is 821 is the house number you'll hear me reference maybe a couple of times. What if a swale had been graded in each of the, in the various rain scenarios? And so in somewhat the order of the way I just described these, the model had shown that the most effective alternative to helping mitigate flooding or impact to the drainage at the homes would have been to install that 21-inch flared apron section in the blue rectangle area. Secondly, providing that emergency overflow, and so for me that's particularly important during the times when the ground doesn't accept runoff. Think about the rain events that we might see in February or March. The ground is frozen. There's no place other than the water to run off the surface. And so this was the next, that in combination with a small berm constructed along the easement line or the backyard to help convey or direct water towards this inlet. So that's the purpose of this green berm that I'm describing, is to help this water reach the inlet. And then lastly, we did see, the model did suggest that there would be benefit to grading some more separation. Right now, the backyard, the elevations of the backyard, make the home vulnerable with respect to water that may accumulate in the backyard. And so things that, grading that can help provide some separation between drainage in the structure also showed beneficial. The one item that was prepared after or was not in the memo that the council had received, we did assemble 3 opinions of cost related to each of the scenarios that I just described. So the first column here, option 1, adding a flared end section and removing the catch basin. We're estimating a cost of approximately $22,000. Constructing the overflow swale and the berm towards the back of the lot at 821 was estimated at approximately $27,000. And then some additional rear yards grading along the 821 lot, an additional $5,300. And so one of the, as I mentioned in our scope of work, we wanted to provide some planning levels of estimate so that the council had at least a sense of associated costs. So I'll pause there. If the council is interested, we can look at the multitude of graphics and maybe some of the technical analysis if you're interested in. But I'll pause there and see if there's questions from the council.
I want to go back to your purple, green, blue picture. I see. So, does water run both north and south here to this location,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay, so,
And that aspect, I guess it's important to note, because
Yeah.
that aspect doesn't change.
Okay.
It's
even if you put all the swales in, it's still gonna roll.
It's
To
still
that
gonna
center
come
point.
in that direction. And the focus here is how can we provide additional protection
Right.
to the structures? But it is important to note that the drainage is still gonna come down the hill.
Yep.
It's still gonna come to the east.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, water runs downhill, I got
Yep.
that. Anyway, so between like, maybe it's Iverson or whatever the last house is, there's no plan to swale on the homes going south?
So there we found that it was providing
Not enough?
less effectiveness.
Okay.
The other aspect, or at least why we tended to focus on these 3 options were, this is within the drainage easement, where the storm sewer exists. So it's not to say that a property owner couldn't grade those swales that we're talking about.
Okay.
I tried to carve or try to draw a line of distinction between what could a property owner do within their own property versus what could the city be involved with within a public drainage easement area.
And I have no problem with this, and we'll get into these more, but you know, when you're out there and that one huge 8-inch rain we had, I mean, that's really where drain tile or something would have been more beneficial. And there's not much backyard there, I get that. At the same time, coming across the brick or the wall is like a huge waterfall. So I was wondering if there's anything we looked at along that border.
So there was,
Oh, I guess I didn't look far enough ahead.
so there was a scenario here where we looked at whether or not that additional grading on those side yard swales would provide a big bang for
Oh.
the buck, if you would.
I see.
But similar to what you described, another scenario that wasn't specifically modeled would have been if we added another drain tile. Now bear in mind, the drain tiles tend to be 6 to 8 inches, so they don't have as much capacity. They tend to be more yard drains, someplace for the water to go. And that's where the 21-inch pipe provided more relief from a capacity perspective.
And the scenario, the options you're describing, I don't mean to, if you guys have questions, I don't mean to, but if the scenarios options you're describing is like for how big of a rain or how big of a,
So those were, so the analysis was based on a rain event similar to that June 24th,
Okay.
which is what we refer to as a 25-year event. So 25-year event has about a 4 4% statistical chance of being exceeded in any event. So when you hear people talk about a 100-year rain event or a 10-year rain event, it's a way of describing, the way engineers analyze flow. It's a statistical probability that a certain capacity storm event would be exceeded.
Yep.
And so a 1 in 100 years is a 1% chance that a 100-year event would be exceeded in any rain event. So give you some, well, what does that mean? When we design storm sewer in public streets, it's typically designed for a 10-year rain event.
Okay.
And that's traditionally been the biggest, if you could say, trade-off between protecting properties and it being affordable. It would not be affordable to put a 100-year storm event storm sewer everywhere in the city. We'd have 66, 70-inch pipes everywhere, and it wouldn't be affordable. So
Cool.
10 inches is kind of that design standard that most cities design their storm sewers to. But to answer your question, Mayor, 25-year was what
Nope.
was analyzed
Very good, yeah.
in this case.
Very good.
With the existing catch basins, I mean, it doesn't look like that can take the influx of that kind of water. And was that also looked at?
Not a 25-year event, so that's why we're looking at, well, if you took those castings off or those catch basins off and put the flared end section, we could do something
more.
with the existing system that increased the capacity.
Yeah, Bob.
What design is the existing system at,
It's-
engineering wise?
It's a 10-year design.
It's a 10-year design?
Yep.
Okay.
Did you rate the options like most important to least important, or most impact to least impact, kind of?
So, as I mentioned, indirectly, so yes.
Okay.
Option 1 would have the most impact, followed by option 2, followed by option 3.
backyard
So it is in the sequence that we would recommend, or that the memo recommends the improvements.
Okay.
Since you brought it up, this other scenario, aside from the swales in the backyard and grading, we also tested a case of if there was a stormwater pond. What if a stormwater pond was constructed along 3rd Avenue? That's the rectangle up here. How would a stormwater pond help attenuate the flow? And so while it does have benefit from a flow attenuation perspective, it has less effect relative to protecting the homes from a flood, because, as you might guess, the elevation of the homes and the swales are what they are, regardless of how much water may be coming down the hill or in the backyard.
Yeah.
So there was an additional modeled scenario, but we did not recommend that as providing the biggest bang for the buck.
Okay.
So, in order to do it right, from what I'm hearing, is all 3 scenarios should be done.
Well, I think when you say doing it right, I think in terms of given investment of doing something, these 3 scenarios provide the biggest
most.
return,
Okay.
is the
Okay.
way I would describe it.
But are you suggesting them as option 1 or 2 or 3, or is it 1 and 2,
And 3.
1, 2, and 3?
The latter. I would
It
say
is.
1 and 2 and 3, but you could stop at 1 and 2, for
Oh.
example.
Okay, so.
But I wanted the council to understand, obviously, each one of these has a cost associated with
Right.
it. And
Right.
But you're suggesting all 3 of them?
I'm suggesting, yes, I think ultimately, whether the city entertain them or the property owners entertain them, these 3 would provide the most protection, given the circumstances.
And then when your team has been out there, have the property owners, they know you're on site, they know what the impact would be?
Well, we've
Have
had
you
a couple of
talked to them?
conversations during the course of this. One was several council meetings ago afterwards. One of the property owners we've had verbal conversations. So they were aware that we were surveying. In fact, I had asked the ones that were in attendance in the meeting outside the council chambers if they were agreeable. So tonight is the first time they're hearing the presentation as well, and we had shared that we wanted to provide the council the first opportunity to ask questions.
If we did all 3 and it's $54,000, does this come out of our budget, or does it get assessed to property owners?
So that's really the direction I think staff will ultimately need from the council. what level of investment occurs at the city level, what level of investment may occur by the property owner. So to be honest, we haven't crossed that threshold yet on that discussion, so.
If we choose to move forward, do you think, again, I mean, it's end of September.
So I have had a conversation with a local contractor that does a lot of work in town, whether or not this is something that could fit in this fall, and they told me yes, that it could or would. So that's a little bit of the direction that staff need from the council, is if you chose to do this as a drainage improvement, a public drainage improvement. This is at a level that you can solicit quotes, so we don't have to go through a advertised bid process.
Okay.
You can solicit quotes because
But-
this is relatively small.
I'm fearful of what will happen in spring melt, you know, based on, not the June flood, but the spring melt where,
The ground's frozen
Ground's
and everything's
frozen,
running
yeah,
off, yes. So as I mentioned, one of the reasons why option 2 was important to me in terms of the emergency overflow, again, grading this area out so that there's more elevation difference between the
Yeah.
lowest openings of the house and the curb line in this case. So we estimate we can grade close to a foot out to provide some additional, what we call, emergency overflow or emergency separation.
Lori, where are we, if we were to approach this for our budget?
We would probably look at some of the stormwater fund. It's a separate enterprise fund where we collect stormwater fees with the utility bills that go out every other month. And then we'd have to see if there, I don't know exactly what level we would have in there, because that fund currently has a balance of almost 380,000 in there, but there's things coming up in the future that some of those funds are dedicated to. So we'd have to look at that, like, do we pull it from there, do we pull it from a reserve account?
And Randy, what is that in option 2, that rectangular
So that's an
box? Is that a garden?
That's
a
an existing
playground?
garden, yes. And so
Okay.
that is something that I've discussed with the property owners.
Okay.
It's partially encroaching into the easement area, and so we certainly recommend that be removed. I don't think my understanding is the present property owner did not construct that, so that was there when they acquired the house. But that is something that if we were to grade, the easement on each side here is 10 feet, so 20 feet wide. What we're proposing is we would grade that full width. So at least a portion of that garden would need to be removed, and quite honestly, it is one more thing when you talk about the February or March rain events.
Yeah.
It's one more thing in addition to snow and ice that can get in the way of drainage. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we'd certainly recommend that be relocated elsewhere.
Randy, have you come across this prior to this, any, other project or whatever, where there is a cost share, or what is an appropriate cost share, or if there is any cost share?
This is unique, this particular instance. Certainly we've come across where a culvert cleaning or some ditching because of sedimentation has occurred over time. So maintenance type activities where the city will fund those types of costs through their stormwater utilities. So there are examples of where the stormwater utilities have been spent, but I can't say that I can reference another example like this one. So this one is a little unique.
Was the original design on this adequate for this area? I mean, I don't know, because there's been some contention in the past. I've dealt with some different property owners in the past there.
So yes, the storm sewer was designed for a 10-year rain event. So that being the litmus test, yes. But you have to kind of consider the timeline of what happens. The road and storm sewer get built, and then the houses over time get constructed. And so I may have an opinion of whether or not the houses were constructed high enough But the street and the storm sewer were there before the homes came. The homes were
Okay.
built after. But from purely a 10-year design basis for the storm sewer, yes, the storm sewer was designed.
So the design didn't cause the problem?
Well, I wouldn't have said the design caused the problem. I would say it's a combination of things, right? The
Right,
homes
yeah.
being lower than we'd like to see.
But initially, the design was there, and then, you know, after the fact, it's how you built your home, or how your architect drew it out, or your engineer drew it out, or...
All those things were factors, in my opinion, yes.
So I think the big question here is, are we gonna do this, and is there gonna be a cost share? That's up to us, I guess.
Please, how do we figure that out?
That's up to the council, how they
Yeah.
would wanna do that.
Oh,
Well,
we're in
I-
uncharted territory right now.
They're what?
We're in uncharted territory. We haven't ever done an assessment like this before. I'm not aware of
So-
one anyway.
No, that's what I asked Randy. We
Well,
never
this
did.
is in city limits, correct?
This is correct.
Okay. I think the city needs to take some responsibility to this. This is our city water and sewer. I mean, I can't see putting this on, these are people that are moving into this area. Granted, they should, you know, do your homework and do all that stuff, but it still belongs, they're a part of the city, and so I think turning our back on that would not be the right thing to do.
I'll move that we move this forward without precedent, you know, specifically
Yeah.
on that motion, and to take that out of our water, or our storm sewer funds, and to get quotes, as Randy was alluding to.
Can we talk about specific options, all three, or just?
All
one, two?
three, you know,
All three.
Okay.
that's, from what I'm hearing, that's what has to get done in order to do it, you know,
Okay.
right. I use the word right, but it's,
Say
Second.
second?
Thank you. Motion and second. Move forward with options 1, 2, and 3, getting
Receive
some
quotes.
quotes, and then coming back and getting a timeline, because we're kind of running out of time. ASAP. Motion and second. All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Randy.
Thank you.
You think, like, I don't want to push this, but like, next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right. 6, prelim budget.
Well, good evening. Here we are with the preliminary budget that we started back in putting together in about May, end of May timeframe. We started looking at some engineer projects, looking at staffing levels, equipment needs, operations, dues and memberships. So we've met a few times over the summer months to kind of assemble the preliminary budget estimate and proposed levy. The preliminary 2023 budget and levy need to be adopted by September 30th. Otherwise, we get last year's numbers, and that's unless there's, you know, some unique thing that would happen, like an emergency event. So all things considered, we have the opportunity now to set what we feel is prudent for the 2023 budget. I put in the summary in the agenda packet, what's included in the budget this year, and some comparisons on what we're looking at with the market values. We did get an estimate from the county assessor that market values look to be increasing a little over 19%. And when we factor that in with the levy, with what we are proposing for a levy, it shows a tax mill rate of a decrease of about 1% from the 2022 levy. But that's if a property had the same exact market value, they would see their city portion of the taxes go down. Now, that 19% increase in market value is coming from existing owners and some new construction. So likely, homeowners are gonna see an increase in market value, and they would have gotten what that estimate was back in March, April from the county. That increase is what we would expect to see then for next year on their tax statement. And it may show an actual increase then as a result of the city taxes. I did reach out to the area cities, the county, and the school district. The Stearns County, the school district, there's a watershed portion that's on the St. Joseph residents' tax statements. The county proposes to decrease their levy, and it would decrease their mill rate going from 48% down to 43%. The school district is still working on their numbers. Their budgets work a little differently. They're kind of given those numbers from the state. And I did not hear back yet on what that was, and it was not available on their website today. I think later this week it will be available. So I assumed that they would have about the same levy. It usually doesn't go up or down a whole lot, a little bit, but that one usually doesn't change as much. So if we look together with all of those three jurisdictions, we would see the tax rate going down about 5%, 5-6% for the St. Joseph residents. With the market value increase, it might be close to a wash then on their final number. Now those numbers from the preliminary levy will come out in November. Residents, all taxpayers, will receive an estimate of what those preliminary levy numbers would look like. The final numbers would be adopted in December, and we're proposing to do a truth and taxation hearing on December, I better look, make sure I get the right date. I think it was December 5th or 6th. I didn't print that.
December
page out.
5th.
December 5th at 6 p.m. here at City Hall. So taxpayers will have the opportunity to review those budgets. The City Council also has the opportunity to decrease the levy by December 5th before that final adoption. We cannot increase the levy here from the preliminary. So this is as high as it can go unless there's an emergency action that would happen, and we don't foresee that, obviously. So the things that are in the budget. The budget is about 66% of the general fund budget is made up of staff and wages. You know, in the end, the government is more of a service organization. We provide, you know, services like the parks, the streets, the police services, fire services. That is where the bulk of the increase in the budget is coming from. We have a couple studies and negotiations going on, and so we estimate those a little bit high to give us some room to figure out what those, the compensation study and the negotiations, the results of that will be. We'll be working on that this fall, and so we will have a better understanding before December 5th rolls around as to what those numbers really need to be in the budget. It does add one police officer, a full-time police officer, moving from a part-time position to full-time. And we had 2 hires that were hired this summer for the administrative assistant and the mechanic. So you're going from part year of a budget or half of a year of a budget to a full year of a budget. So those are some big impacts as well. Operations, there were some increases to deal with the inflation market that we're all experiencing in the world today, certainly in our country and in our state. The dues and memberships were kind of just brought forward from what we have belonged to the last couple years. The other unique thing in the budget is the fire fund. It's partially funded with contract revenue from St. Joseph Township and St. Wendell Township. We're currently negotiating a new fire contract for those services. The current contract expires December 31st, so again, we have room to figure out what's going to happen there. And we also joined some of the area cities to do a fire study and looking at fire service just in general in the central Minnesota region here. And we don't know exactly what that outcome will be. That study will take, I don't know, 6 to 8 months. St. Cloud is running that study, but we're certainly a part of it, and we'll have input to that.
But with the allocation with, between the two townships and the city, we are picking up about 60% of the fire fund that we fund. And that is a little bit of an increase since doing the annexation a few years ago. The other item that increased in the fire budget is the pumper tanker that we will take possession of. We're estimating in January. We just made a down payment last week on it, and the chassis is done from what I understand. So it sounds like we're on target with getting that truck in January as anticipated. We have a debt that we have to pay that goes along with that truck. And so 2023 is the first year that we're gonna pay on that debt as well. So that increased the fire budget overall. I listed in the, my summary equipment that's planned to purchase for next year. We do anticipate that we'll issue an equipment certificate. One rolls off and we typically add another one on, and that helps us maintain more of a levy that's not going up and down like these huge spikes and valleys in the budget. So those equipment certificates have helped us purchase large items, like next year we're anticipating the front end loader, which is replacing one that's over 20 years old now. So I'm not gonna go through each piece of equipment that we're anticipating. For capital projects, we're looking at a 2022, our 2023 street overlay, just continuing with our maintenance plan of the streets. We'll be continuing with the community center capital campaign, maybe some design work next year. We have a lift station, and we're looking at some right-of-way acquisitions over in Elm Street. So those are the big projects. Again, I said our levy is anticipated to be reduced about 1% on the mill rate, but that incorporates about a 19% increase in the taxable market value. So with that, I'll just answer any questions you may have.
Lori, Teresa and I got an email from the Whitney Center about we subsidize is that included?
That's included with the dues and memberships, and we're subsidizing 30 members at $40 a
Okay.
member.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move to adopt the preliminary budget.
Second?
Motion and second to adopt the preliminary budget, and,
I emphasize preliminary.
yeah, well,
That's right.
don't we have to mention when
Yes, we do have to state the truth and taxation hearing.
the truth and taxation, when was that again? I was looking for it.
December 5th at 6 p.m. here in council chambers.
Very good. Motion and second to adopt preliminary budget, truth and taxation here, December 5th. Further questions or concerns? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion does carry. Thank you, Lori. Thanks, staff. Good job. Nice job. All right. Item 7. I hear
Yeah,
we-
so I'm bringing this back from your last meeting. The St. Joseph Lions Club would like to donate money for a wireless handheld microphone system. So that information's in your packet, as well as an email from the Lions president. So the ask this evening is to consider adopting Resolution 2022-044, accepting that donation to approve that purchase for that microphone system.
I move to approve.
I'll second with the stipulation.
Motion and second, approve this donation. Questions and concerns, Bob?
Yeah, the microphone system is not intended for public use. Once it's donated to the city, it is public use. So I'd like to have that to be stricken off of that one, policy of, who can use it, who can't. It's donated to the city, so it can be used for public use.
What did the email
That's
say?
my second
Yep,
there.
I get it. What did the email say?
Not to use it.
Yeah,
No, it said if it's open to public use, then the Lions won't be responsible for future maintenance. And if you're okay with that, I'm okay with that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
saying that it's up to us. Then we take the responsibility.
I'm not, again, I'm not trying to interpret for the Lions,
No,
but that's what it
no,
reads
thank
to
you
me.
for pointing that out.
Right. If it's open for public use, then the Lions won't maintain it or buy a replacement. So if they do, it's just Lions, they'll maintain it and replace it.
Yeah, if it's broke, I mean, the person that broke it will be responsible with, you know.
And that's
Yeah,
maybe
but-
something,
Bob, they're saying that, and I agree with that. They're saying that if we use it for public use, then it belongs to us and we have to,
Yeah.
and then
And-
that,
Mhm.
I
And so-
agree.
maybe there's another part of the, I don't know, down payment for if you're gonna use that,
Right, there should be a cost.
like,
Deposit
Yeah,
maybe
a
increased
deposit,
Yeah.
Right?
okay. Motion and second, accepting the Lions donation. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion does carry. And we're all the way down to reports, sweet.
Yeah, I'm up again. So yes, mayor and council, Heartsook fundraising, they have been talking with folks to serve on our fundraising campaign committee. So we anticipate that we'll have a meeting organized, scheduled in early October, so more to come on that once I have that date. I had my monthly meeting with Ann Oberman, she's the CFO for CSB. We talked about things about like enrollment, I don't have the numbers, but I will share that enrollment is down. We talked about, a property first right of refusal for the properties north and south of, the government center here, as well as, bus service as well. We talked about having more conversation, surrounding that. Been working on amendments to the personnel policy, so, I will make sure to bring that forward to the council for review at a future meeting. The park ordinance, you took action on that at your last meeting. That'll be brought forth to you at your next meeting as well. The compensation study is on schedule to be done at the end of this month, and that also will be brought to you for review in October. As we had mentioned previously, when Lori presented the preliminary budget, we've hired an administrative assistant who had started on October 12th, and then Debbie Kulzer, who you approved her appointment this evening, will start as our finance technician on October 24th. That's all I have.
So, the third bullet point, Therese, on contacting the CSBSJU President's Office,
Yes.
where do we stand with that?
Yeah, so I did get a
Potential meeting.
yeah, thank you. I did get a response from their admin, the president's admin person today, a matter of fact, and so we're working to organize like a meet and greet here at City Hall.
Further down the line there, meeting with Mr. Lampert, that is very interesting.
Yes, so he has some property by Millstream Park, so he met with staff.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he met with Ryan and Nate and Randy and myself in regards to moving forward with the project. So once we know more and it's, public, he's ready to, if he
Okay.
wants to move forward with that, of course, it'll be brought to council.
I mean, he's a serious developer.
They're all serious, some more serious than others.
No, I don't-
Very good. Any other questions?
Do I hear a negative there?
So, and before we get to, what's number 2 here? Community development. Randy, you want to introduce your guest? Sorry, I apologize.
I
No
figured there might be an
pressure.
opportunity further down on the agenda, so,
Was
but you recognize a new face, so yes. Bryce Johnson is a professional engineer in our office who will be working with me on service delivery to St. Joseph and others, but Bryce has been with us just about a month, brings over 10 years of experience in municipal engineering, so he's gonna step right in where Bill Zine left off, and but you'll likely see a new face with me from time to time as things continue.
Thank you, Randy. I forgot. I apologize. I should have done that earlier. No worries. Thank you. B, community development.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Go through some highlights of my report here. Start off with the Planning Commission. We had a meeting last Monday on the 12th. We talked about trail and sidewalk priorities, trying to develop that chronological list of priority projects for that, and Planning Commission did arrive at a priority list for that. We'll also be having that same discussion with the park board next Monday, and then at the council at the workshop next Tuesday. Planning Commission also talked about the THC cannabis and zoning, so we had some good discussion with that. More to come next month on that. Rhonda and I are doing some brainstorming regarding potentially renaming East Park. As you recall, that's kind of a placeholder name that we have. So trying to develop a list of potential names. So if you have some good ideas, please let us know. The hope is that we have 5 or so names, and then we'll share that with the council, and then get some community outreach on that. So
What if East Park is like the most nominated name?
could very well be. East Park
South
could,
Park.
yeah.
I mean, everybody knows it as East Park. I mean, I
Yep.
get it, but, okay, I
Yeah.
get it. I get it.
Trying to spice it up a little.
That's copyrighted.
Some other items, so permits have kind of slowed down a little bit, but we're also gonna be getting some of the rush with the projects before snow flies and winter turns, shows up. People getting in last minute projects. But I've been working on some enforcement issues tied to parking on grass, legal sheds, and some other items. Randy, Therese, and I had discussions with the majority of the property owners that are directly off of Elm Street. So we've been having some good conversations regarding the future extension of Elm Street and the right-of-way needs and concerns. And then going down to just some of the highlights from the meetings that I've had. The end of August, I attended a GSDC investor meeting out at the airport. That was really beneficial, a good opportunity to hear from leaders in the community and networking. Also, that same day, I helped pass out some lunches through the senior RSVP program, which was really nice. Got to meet some nice folks out there that are volunteering their time in our community. And then attended the community outreach event last Tuesday, I believe. And that was really nice, great attendance for that. So great job by the staff for putting that on and everyone that attended. And that wraps it up. EDA tomorrow. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, there's 2 pictures on the bottom of this page here.
Yeah.
What's that in reference to?
Oh, so I'm trying to show some just visuals in my report. So that's actually where Perfect Fit. It's called the Health and Wellness Center.
Yeah.
Yep. So just showing some beautification that they've done. They painted and added some other things in that. So before and after.
Okay, I'm just curious if there was,
Yeah. Trying to document some more of that work that's going on in our community.
I just have, if you go down 121, you see the new Rivers Bend, whatever, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4, okay, Rivers Bend 4, it says luxury something rentals.
Mm-hmm.
Are they gonna be rentals?
Yes. Yep.
Really?
Correct. Yep.
that's all that came in.
Oh, I know, but I guess I'm surprised by that. I thought they were building townhomes and stuff. That's what it looked like.
High-end rentals.
Really? I missed that.
Yeah.
I apologize, I'm surprised by that, but, okay. Wow, okay, thanks, Nate. Any questions?
you're
Any other questions? Very good. Thank you, Nate. We doing fire? Yeah, okay, fire. Well, yeah.
He switched
You
up
don't look
seats
like
on
Dwight.
you.
You look like Dwight over there.
Did someone yell fire?
Yeah, fire. Wait, fire. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Good evening, and you can see my report, just keeping up to date with our call volume. Again, it's staying very busy. Total of 428 as of last week. Last year we did 542, so we have 3.5 months left, so probably surpass that number. Membership, 5 of the new members have started their EMR classes, which would be a huge asset when they're done. Still at 26 with a possible 30 members, and we're gonna continue to look for new members as we go. We are gonna pull the signs, our neon signs here in October, just to get them out for the winter, so no one has to shovel around them and look at placing them again next year if need be. Pumper tanker update, as Lori talked before, the chassis is done, we paid for that, it's moved on to the next process, which is installing the tank and the pump and then building a box on top of that. Also working with our crew to get numbers to equip that truck, since that'll be an additional truck. We'll have to equip it with hose, nozzles, anything else we're gonna use. We're not gonna be able to supply it with anything else from another truck. And still completion sometime hopefully in January 2023. New rescue van, I just got off the phone here this afternoon. Dave and myself will be going down Friday to pick up the new van. It's done, it'll be completed by then, we'll be bringing it back. Gotta move some radios over, some equipment, and then we'll get in touch with St. John's once ours, as the new one is in service, for them to take delivery of theirs. Grass rig replacement, the committee is finalizing some numbers to bring back to the fire board in November. Last week we had a kickoff meeting for the fire study, like I said before. Hopefully it's been 6 months. They'll have some kind of news for us. There's a lot of material myself and Therese hopefully can help get them. A lot of documentation, numbers, whatever the case may be over the last 5 years to give them an idea where we're at. Grants, we did receive our FEMA grant this year. It was written for battery operated extrication equipment that'll go on a new pumper tanker. We received $43,027.61. Waiting to hear back from the DNR grant I wrote, Compier Financial Grant, Stearns Electric Grant, and waiting to hear on Midco, which won't open until spring. Other things, myself and 2 or 3 other members will be attending a Fallen Firefighters Memorial this Sunday in St. Paul. They'll be honoring firefighter Andy Loso, and the chief and the assistant will be attending the annual Chiefs Conference in Duluth in October. Questions?
Can you speak to the fire, that house fire on 6th Avenue Northwest? Just
Sure.
how many rigs were there? How many people? Did we have to get outside help? And we don't have many houses burned down in St. Joe,
Which is
so.
good.
Which is good.
Uh,
Good statistic of the day.
St. Joe, we had 18 people of our members there, 4 vehicles. I did call Way Park right away for mutual aid. Structure fire, no one structure fire with radio communication, and seeing what I saw when I was coming into town. So Way Park showed up with an engine and 5 guys. I called Cold Spring for manpower. They showed up with 5 members, and then Way Park brought another 4 members. So along with Mayo was on standby. So roughly 30. So it went well. As well as can be, put it that way.
No, you and I have communicated. I have some film that I'm gonna try and get so we can share it. I mean, the neighbors across the street were mesmerized, cause they never see a fire that big either.
Right. No, and it'll be good, maybe
Yeah.
there's things that we can use for training on it, just to say, we don't get them a lot, thank goodness. We train for them,
Yeah.
but there's always things you can improve on that we learn after every call, so.
Did the
Yeah.
homeowner call it in, or a neighbor call it in, or we don't know?
I think it was a neighbor,
Yeah.
Okay,
I believe.
okay.
So
Yeah.
that's all taken care of, the investigation is done, so I'm assuming it should be getting cleaned up here shortly. I don't know the timeline on that, but
No, I got good responses from the neighbors, so good job, nice job. Any other questions? Very good. Finance.
I just want to highlight a couple things on my report. The bond issue, we did receive the proceeds, and I invested most of the money here last week with that. I used basically all of our official designated depositories to try to spread the money out a little bit and try to get the best rates that I could with what they had to offer. Most of them went into treasuries and agencies, because that's what's the best in the market at the moment. With the budget, I wanted to highlight, obviously we've been working on the budget, but the one piece that will be coming here very soon is a link to the online digital budget book. We contracted with ClearGov a couple years ago, and we have an ongoing contract with them to have an online place for people to go and see the budget summary, an opportunity for council and department heads to say, this is what's in the budget, this is, you know, actions that we've taken thus far. So as soon as I get that link, I will share that out on Facebook and on our website. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is the capital campaign. I've been working with the YMCA and also here at Century Bank on receiving those, receiving donations. We hope most of our donations and pledges will go through the YMCA. If there are individuals or companies that want to donate, it is best to write a check directly to the YMCA, written out to the YMCA, and in the memo box, put St. Joseph Project or Community Center, St. Joseph Community Center in there, and it will get into our account. If a person doesn't want to go through the YMCA, we can accept some donations at Century Bank. We have a separate bank account set up for this project. The check should be written out to the city of St. Joseph, and in the memo box, put for the Community Center project. So between all of it, hopefully, you know, we have avenues that will meet people's needs if they want to donate to the project. So next week I will be out Wednesday through Friday at the Government Finance Officers Conference. An exciting one at that. See what new GASBs are out there for us to worry about.
Kevin, you wanna go to that with her?
Any questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. You have on here development meetings, you and Nate with Tammy Amdahl. What does that meeting entail? What have you been talking about?
I'll say TIF scenarios.
Okay.
Yep.
Individual pieces of blocks or the entire downtown or what?
Blocks, yeah, different areas.
Other questions for Lori? Okay. Very good, thanks, Lori. Public Works,
Mayor, staff, so the county got a new striping, piece of equipment. They just took, possession of it here late this summer, so they're looking for small projects around the county to learn how to use that new piece of equipment, so I've been working with them and get some striping done around town here for us. I did go out and I mowed the trails in East Park, as best I could for the map that I had, you know, for the future trails.
There's a lot of trails.
They're being used.
are there any oak trees growing?
No.
Didn't we invest like a,
He ran them over.
I mowed them down.
no, we spent with Steve Haymans, like, he went out there and planted a bunch of acorns.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that triangular piece over by Marvin Bierschbach.
Oh,
that-
okay,
yeah,
okay, okay.
Yeah. No. Yeah,
I'm
so
serious.
go out and check the trails. Let me know
Are
what
they
you think.
growing up yet, the
No,
acorns?
he ran them over.
Yeah.
With
I
the
did
mower.
actually go out there and look at it. It was good, you know,
Yeah.
it's like a corn maze kinda.
Nate spoke about the night out in the park last week. That was a good turnout. I am having some issues with Baker Lift Station. The check valves have exceeded their life expectancy. I do have new check valves here on the ground. We attempted to replace those ourselves last week. We don't have the right tools, so I'm seeking help from a local contractor to get those replaced. Staff is really business as usual. Starting to think about getting some equipment or some winter equipment out and taking a look at it. Dusted it off, putting the mowers away, hopefully. Upcoming meetings, water, wastewater, continuing ed. Community development meeting on the 26th, park board on the 26th, council work session on the 27th, Simwee on the 29th. I have some training on variable frequency drives on the 29th. It's a lot like. Yeah. Council on the 3rd, regional infrastructure meeting on the 5th, and safety training on the 5th, pending your questions.
Does our mechanic work on our fire trucks and fire equipment? too?
He
Like
will-
Oil
he-
changes and stuff, or?
Yes, he will work on the physical mechanics of them, but he will not service any of the valves, or that all has to be licensed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
the
so
hydro-
we haven't had anything done yet, Derek, we've talked a couple times, kinda letting him get caught up on his end. Typically, our service for our vehicles are in February, so we'll work that out, but there is one truck I need him to look at it when he gets time, a grass rig needs some work, but, that's the plan. But yes, the pumps, will get certified by a pump certified person.
I like the picture of the lift.
Yeah,
It's nice.
sorry, I forgot to mention that. There's a picture of
Derek.
Derek there, and he's super
Proud
proud of his new
standing.
lift.
Yeah, his smile is bigger than
Yeah.
the.
Yep, he's just happy.
So, is there any municipality here that could help with the mechanics of the lift station? Like St. Cloud have the right equipment?
They
Nobody?
pretty much all hired out.
Okay, very good,
Um,
very good.
yeah.
Thanks. Any other questions for Ryan? You guys all read the police report? Because Dwight's not here. Looks perfect. Okay. Committee board reports. CVB?
It was just kind of a generalized, Mary is kicking it out of the park with, collaborating with the events coming in, with our Snow Fest at Park and Rec are doing, of course, her Shop Crawl Small, and of course, the Winter Walk, Festival with the new board. Also talking with, billboards, which sounds like they're kind of narrowing it in there too, so I think there'll be a great collaboration with, Mary's doing a great job on that.
Good. Thanks.
I just got one
Yep.
question I forgot about to shoot to Randy. Sometime back, we talked about the flow in Park Terrace, that pipe there.
Yes.
And are you gonna come back with some costs on that? I don't know if that's still on your list to do, or,
It is, or we did, we're recommending a 1-month flow monitoring period. We're estimating that'd be about $5,000 for rental of the inline flow, and then to summarize the data. But I think the two questions were, how much would it approximately cost, 5,000, and how long would we do it? Approximately a month. So now that college is back in session, or school's back in session, and we got more flow coming through that pipe, any time now would be an appropriate time to consider that testing.
see, I'd like to do that so we have that answer, because that's kind of a hinge on any type of development, you know, before the big dig goes in.
Yes.
Let's add that to the agenda next time. Okay.
I'll move to that point.
Not on the agenda, Bob, sorry.
Okay.
Anything else for Randy or anybody else? Okay, mayor reports. So, this week, the League of Minnesota City Board of Directors Conference, this week I'll be attending. We're gonna talk about legislative priorities and then emergency communication across city and multiple municipalities. I told Dwight and Therese, and I'm sure you guys all know, the White Peony grand opening is this Saturday, Sunday?
Saturday and
So, White Peony.
Peony.
Oh, White Peony then. Sorry.
The white-
But
the white
we wanna,
pony.
well, the concern is that they're gonna take Mike and Harvey's parking.
Oh,
And how do we
okay.
monitor that, or how do we, because last time they had a grand opening,
Yeah.
it just consumed Mike and Harvey, and I don't think Harvey was very happy about it, but, so, again, I'm not sure that we can do anything, but at least we should be aware about it. Community picnic, yeah, I do really wanna thank, it was highlighted here a couple of times, really good. We had, police, fire, Kelly, the park board, Ryan did the cooking, or at least some of it. It was a good turnout, really bigger and better than last year. Who? Who? Yeah, I saw you there. You don't count. Just kidding around. So the CGMC board met last Thursday, and they want to allocate more money in defense of the water standards. The reason is that because 3 tribes in northern Minnesota filed a suit to reduce the quality, and so CGMC is going to be participating in the defense of current minimal standards, not reducing standards. They also completed an annexation survey, which I'm going to share with all you guys. And the reason they did that is because there's going to be some pending litigation that came up last year about referencing township and city annexation policies. We meet with the off-campus housing students, and I wanted to mention that because the La Plata is organizing a Give Back to St. Joe Day, October 23rd. And they have 7 off-campus houses involved with already. And they're looking for work to do, whether it's residents or business or city or seniors or anything else. So we've kind of thrown out the gauntlet of how can we participate and get more people involved. We've also reached out to the Dean of Students, both CSB and SJU, to get other people on the universities involved. And, yeah, I was gonna say, the APO exec met last week, and we approved all the other ATP plans except St. Joe. St. Joe's a little bit out of whack, and I know you guys have been talking about it. So, once that's done, it's really, and Nate and I talked, it's really 2 documents. One for federal ATP recommendations, the other one along with local roads like Second Avenue from Highway 52 to Minnesota or something like that. So, we can't get federal funding without the ATP recommendations, so that one to me is kind of urgent. But, any questions? Very good. Item 11, or is there something else? Anything else?
Move
Item-
to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all very much. So the